Hey guys, welcome to the Hardcore Strong podcast. This is episode 4. We are your hosts. I am Ernest.
Hey guys, and I am Cassandra, and today we have a very, very special guest with us, Adam Gunton. We're going to let him actually just kind of jump in and tell you a little bit about who Adam Gunton is, and it's going to be an awesome podcast, so here we go.
Sweet. Well, hey, I'm Adam Vibe Gunton. I'm actually the founder of Recoveredonpurpose, and I'm actually launching my book, From Chains to Saved. That's actually coming out on November 6th, and November 6th is actually my 2-year clean and sober mark. So 2 years ago today, actually, I was homeless. I was kicked out of the homeless shelter and unable to stop using the worst kinds of drugs. And actually, since I've been sober, I have been trying to get this book written. Mm-hmm. And what Recovered on Purpose has actually done for me was connected me with a purpose beyond me just getting a book out, right? So the reason why I'm launching this book, I'm not launching this book to get my story out, although it will get my story out.
Right.
The reason why I was able to get this book together so quickly and get it ready for launch for November 6th is I wanted to give others hope. And I wanted to show them that it's possible. It's possible, and your story is worth it. And I'm launching it on 2 years. I'm going to be looking for those recovered addicts that want to launch theirs on 18 months, you know?
Nice. Yep.
Or I want to find the person that's ready to go for their 1 year. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I want to find those ones that want to get connected and get their stories out, you know? And what actually inspired this was quite a few months ago now, I had just done a speech, and this person came up to me and said, you know, all addicts are competing for the craziest story. What are you really trying to say? You know, it hit me really hard. Mm-hmm. And it actually, at first, it upset me because I'm not out here trying to compete with people.
Right.
You know, and I think I can say this for most of us. We just want to be heard. We're not competing with each other. That's not the point of it. The point of it is we just want to be heard. And the whole point of this entire thing is to empower recovered addicts to begin connecting back to purpose and put their past in the past and move on.
I love that. I was going to kind of bounce off that Recovered on Purpose. How did you come up with that name? I mean, obviously it has a huge meaning to you. Because I was going to ask you that before too. So I love that name. I think it's super powerful, super empowering. So I just kind of wanted to know, like, how did it come to you? How did you think of it?
Thank you for that question. So I was actually at a conference out in California at the 100X conference. And it's a Christian kingdom building entrepreneur academy. And the first night there, I was worshiping. I was up there, and I was all alone there. I ended up going there alone and everything. And I was worshiping the first night, and God literally said to me, "Your company is called Recovered on Purpose. Get it right now." So I'm sitting there worshiping to Jesus culture, and then all of a sudden I'm like, okay, pull my phone out, boom, 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 buy the domain name, got back home, and got it with the Secretary of State. And since then, he's just been downloading all this stuff. So basically, this conference happened almost 4 weeks ago. So almost 4 weeks ago. And since I came back, I got this entire book together. Got this entire book written, edited, the cover done, the photos done. All this stuff was done within the last 3 weeks because God downloaded Recovered on Purpose. I've been trying to write this book for so long, but the thing was that it was almost I didn't know why. I do want to get a story out, yeah, but that's not what my purpose and my passion is not involved with myself. I've never been able to just like go at something for myself. And as soon as he was like, dude, you get this book out by your 2-year mark, that's going to inspire so many people. And it's 2 years. There's plenty of people out there that can get connected and get theirs done in 1 year, in 6 months, in 18 months. Right. Yeah.
Did you ever think that, let's say, 5 years ago, you would have been writing a book right now?
No, not 5 years ago. No. I was way too caught up in, 5 years ago, I don't even know what I was doing 5 years ago, man. My life now is completely different. even my thought processes are completely different than what it used to be. Like on day 26 sober, and I talk about this in the book, but on day 26 sober, my mind completely rearranged in an instant. Because since I was 12 years old, my mind consistently and constantly and always concluded with, I need a substance to put into my body. I need to do whatever it takes to put a substance inside of my body, whatever it was, for 16 years. Wow. And then on day 26, it literally, I had this awakening, and I was looking around, and I realized that I didn't want to drink or use, which was phenomenal to me. It was just completely phenomenal. So 5 years ago, while I was shooting up dope and, whatever I was doing at that time, no, I was not thinking that I would be writing a book, because I was way too caught up in myself.
Oh, that's crazy.
So I did read your book, because you sent me the copy, which was an awesome book. There's a lot of super intense moments from, my point of view, for sure. So we don't have to obviously get into all of them, but describe a time in your life that was a dark time in your life that just really made an impact on you. I'm sure they all did in some way, shape, or form, but like, what's one story, I guess, that you would like to share to our listeners that kind of was just, a dark time or a hard time for you in your life that you kind of go back to as a changing moment for your life?
So I'm actually going to share a story with you that isn't in my book, because it kind of fits in with what you're saying. So I've always been writing. I never knew I was going to be writing a book, but I literally have stacks and stacks and stacks and stacks and stacks of filled journals. And then I have my computer that has all these writings in it and stuff. And I remember this one time, I was super sick. I was using and everything, and I was at this house alone. And I was sitting there typing, and I was writing. And at the time, what I would do is I would write to try to connect with God. Like I would write, and I would just keep going until something came out that would make sense to me. And I remember something happened while I was writing that taught me something within my own head that made me sit back and realize that God was just speaking to me through my own writing. And I sat back to read it again. And right when that happened, the front door swung open. I heard it, and I'm in the living room, so it's like right over here. I hear it swing open and hit the wall. I look over, and as I look over, it's against the wall like this, and then it swings shut. And I was like, what the heck? And I stood up, and I went over there, and I opened the door, and I went out on the porch, and I was looking around for someone, and I was like, there's no one here. There's no one here. But that door just opened and slammed shut. I called the owner of the house that wasn't home at the time and told her, I was like, hey, this is what's going on. I know it's freaky. And she started heading home. And I was standing out there for another minute and a half. And then I went inside, went up to the computer that I had just written on, and all the files were gone. It said that my storage has been over. It's over. They don't have any more storage, and the file is no longer able to be viewed. So what I had just written, and I had sat back to reread what I had just written, it was gone. And so I tell this because I actually just became aware, like, something's been battling me not to write this for a long time. Something's been battling me, and it's finally here. It's finally here. There's nothing he can do about it.
Right.
Do you want to?
Yeah, what did you have next?
So going back to recovery, and you said you have been addicted to something since you were 12, correct? Since now you're recovered for 2 years, which is awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you.
What has been, I'm sure there's a bunch of challenging moments, but what has been one of the most challenging parts of actually being recovered and of recovery itself for you?
Losing people constantly losing people. 9 people this year. That's how many people I've known that I've lost. And it's a constant thing. And for me, and what I've come to recognize is that I won't be one of them. And I believe fully and 100% within me that we do have the power to do what it takes to not use again. Like, not do it. We don't do it again. It's over. And the thing is that we have to connect to something higher. And I'm not necessarily talking about God. I believe in God, and I believe that is what and who got me and keeps me sober. However, I have struggled with suicidal thoughts, with wanting to relapse, with different things in my life until I got connected with a purpose for my life. Because so many addicts are using for so long, and then they get clean. And now their entire life is centered around, I don't use drugs. And what I'm finding is that a lot of them just, like, they can't get connected with a life that makes them want to continue to live without drugs. Because if you have a polar opposite of either I'm using drugs or I'm not using drugs, and those are the two answers, instead of either I'm using drugs or I'm living a life on mission. I'm going after to help kids. I'm going after to build companies. I'm going after to do this. I'm going after to help people. I'm doing all this stuff. If your life is centered around service and purpose and love and mission, then it's no longer thinking about I'm not using drugs. It's thinking about, what am I doing to contribute to this world? What am I doing to live a life of meaning, to live a life with contribution to this planet that I was blessed to be born into? Yeah.
When did you find out like that was like what you wanted to do? Like what year in of your sobriety did you realize that, like, this is what I'm going to do? You know what I mean? I'm going to give back now. You know? When was that?
So and that's a great question, because this has been something that I have known that I wanted to do for so long, even before I got clean, before I got recovered, right? I knew that I wanted to help people, but I can't rely on other people to get me to help people. I can't rely on some thing to happen that makes me do what I need to do. There's things that people need to do and consistently do and keep a consistent discipline in their life that gets them to that point. I've been sitting on these thoughts for forever, but now it's time to do it. I don't need to talk about it anymore. Like, I'm doing it, and that's it. I'm done thinking about it. So it's been there forever, but now it's time that it's actually happening. Right?
That's awesome. That's really cool, man.
And like you said, like finding a purpose and a meaning in life. Because I love how you brought to my attention something that I never thought about before, which was the concept of once an addict is quote unquote recovered, that's kind of like it, you know, like that's okay. You accomplished something, and then it's kind of like, now what? Or like you said, that ends up leaving them with this whole idea of, I'm a recovered addict, and that's kind of all that the title that they have on their life, and of kind of who they identify with, you know, is I used to be an addict, now I'm not, but there's so much more to life anyway. And with those goals and purposes, you know, it kind of drives that recovery, I think, for a lot of them. So like with that, like in your experience with yourself and your friends and people that you've known, how does an addict know when they want to quit? Like, how do they get to that point? And I know people call it rock bottom, but I mean, is that a thing? Is that really a thing that they need to feel like, hey, I'm ready now to be completely sober?
That's another great question. So I don't believe that there is such thing as a rock bottom. Reason being is I remember when I made as big of a shot as I could, and I put it in my arm to end it. And then I woke up in the morning and screamed at God because I didn't want to be there. And I thought that was rock bottom. And I did that in my apartment, right? And then when they found me dead behind the wheel of a car, and I was on video, and I was watching myself in a courtroom on video, dead on this TV screen in front of me, facing 5 years in prison, you know, that was my rock bottom. And then all of a sudden, 12 months later, I'm in a corporate apartment here, looking at a filled up syringe, thinking, I don't want to do this, but I have to. I thought that was my rock bottom, and I wanted to kill myself then. And then all of a sudden, I find myself in a homeless shelter, and I thought that was my rock bottom. And then I got kicked out of the homeless shelter, and then I thought that was my rock bottom. The thing is that there is no rock bottom. There is a point of decision. I don't believe in choice. I don't believe that I had a choice in the matter to use or not. but I did have the power to make a decision to do what it took to be able to connect with whatever it is that gets me the power I need to choose a different life, and decide step by step what I need to do, and not live in the past, not live in the future, but right now, what do I need to do to move on? And the thing is that anybody that is listening to this, if they're struggling, right now can be the time. And anybody, like, here's the thing, it's different for everybody. Everybody has a different way to get sober. But I can tell you that every single person has one, and every single person knows what they need to do. They all know, but then they'll tell themselves, like I told myself, I don't have the power to do it. I know what I need to do, but I don't have the power to do it, so I didn't do it. Instead of getting that power by saying I have that power and just taking the action steps that it takes to do it. Every addict knows what they need to do. They all know. We all know what we need to do. It's just some of us do it and some of us don't. And it sucks. A lot of us don't.
Right.
A huge percentage of us don't.
That's crazy.
Do you think it's because a lot of people say that you can't do it? It's like, oh, you can't do it. It's like, oh, you're just gonna be an addict forever. Or do you think there's like a specific thing that's holding people from not wanting to do it? You know, like a story I haven't really shared to a lot of my listeners or a lot of people who listen to this podcast is that addiction's kind of been around in my life, in and out, with my mother. And like we previously talked before. And at this point, she's in her 50s and still hasn't decided to quit. So it's just like when, it's like, what's that deciding factor? It's like at this point for me, it looked like it was like, when I was a kid, she left me, and obviously for the reasons that she did. But when, it's like if it's not that, then at what point is it just like, damn, what is it? What's the reason to be? It's like you can't for your kids, not for your own life at some point. And like you said, you've been behind the wheel of a car, and even trying to take your own life. It's just like. For some people, it's just like, well, what is it then,
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's different for all of us, man. It's different for all of us. And something that I had the support of my family like crazy. Like my mom, my dad, my sister, like the whole family was very supportive of me. But it got to a point where I couldn't even take their support because I recognized there was nothing they could do. There was nothing they could do. They prayed for me. They did the tough love thing for a while. They did the cut me out, and then they had to bring me back in because they love me, But the thing is that they didn't have the power to help me, right? It's between me and whatever that higher power is that I choose to connect with. And the thing is that I believe in the power of prayer. Like I believe it fully and completely. Because in my last week of using, plus the first like 30 to 45 days, at times I could literally feel my heart tugging from my chest. I could literally feel it, and I could feel and intuitively believe that I was supposed to get home to Denver, right? And then when I made it home for Christmas, and I was like right over 30 days, right? And my whole family, I have this big Italian family. My whole family has been praying for me, right? And praying for me to come home. And so there's this power to it that I wasn't even aware of at that time, right? And and I hope that it brought peace to my mom also while she was doing it, and my family, while they were doing it. I hope that brought peace to them, and I hope it can bring peace to others by praying for the addicts in their life.
Yeah, and I'm sure it does. I mean, I think it definitely does help people who are on the outside, I guess, looking in and feel like, what can I do? Like you said, like they try so many things, and I'm sure at so many points they probably feel hopeless, like, or that they're not doing enough, or like kind of that whole guilt and blame themselves. So, I mean, it's like off the subject of your book, and we'll go back to it for sure. But I just wanted to know, like, in your opinion, like based on your own experiences, why do you think addiction is such an epidemic, if you will, more so now, I'm sure, more than ever in our country specifically? You think it's mostly just like a lot of people not being able to know how to deal with things that they've experienced, in their lifetime, or lack of support, maybe. But I mean, I know in your case you had support, so, and you still like decided to obviously use drugs. So you think a lot of it is just masking, obviously, pain and things that people don't want to deal with.
I think it's a lack of education. That's the entire thing. Addicts, if you talk to any addict, they started young. They started very young. And why is that? The DARE and the Just Say No project came in, and they had such great intentions. But I can tell you that I was 10 years old when they came into my classroom, and they put the drunk goggles on me. The entire class laughed. And then from that moment on, I was the funny guy. And I was validated through having drunk goggles on. And it was this parent figure coming in and telling a kid what not to do, right? Don't do this. And they had no experience in it. So what does a kid do, an adolescent do, when you tell him or her not to do something, right? So many of them do it.
Right.
So what this country is lacking, which is what Recovered on Purpose is education brought into the school systems by people with experience. People that can actually tell these kids, and they can connect with them from their own adolescence, from their own, I can start talking to them about between the ages of 12 and 15, when I started using and why I started using, how I was feeling, how I was thinking. And then from 15 to 17, when I was captain of the football team, wrestling team, and all this stuff, but I was still using and had this deep, dark secret behind me, right? And I can actually connect with them because they're going to have, some kids in there are going to have a connection to what I'm saying.
Yep.
And the reason why I'm not going after being Mr. Speaker, Mr. I go to all the schools and speak, is because a lot of the kids can't connect with me in my adolescence, right? So the whole point of Recovered on Purpose is that we need to raise up an army, because we all have different stories. We all have different ways to connect with kids and educate them on where this actually goes, where this ends up, because too many, we think it's cool when we're young. So, and weed has just become a huge, cool, fine, okay thing to do here, and people can say it's not a gateway drug all they want, but it is. It is.
We were going to ask. That was one of his questions.
We talked about this earlier.
About
I was
weed being a gateway
this is what
drug.
I'm going to ask him almost what he thinks, and thank you for touching on that, because I'm a strong believer in that as well. So
yeah. Well, here's the thing. Between when we are in the pubescent period, our frontal cortex of our brain that makes all the decisions is still forming. So if we begin to add substances into our brain, it begins to rewire our decision making around getting high, around feeling different. Instead of decision making when an emotion pops up, instead of looking for a substance, we look for a solution. We look for a way to process this out. But so many kids, and alcohol is the same thing. Alcohol is the same amount of a gateway drug as weed. And the only reason why I say weed is a gateway drug, I did cocaine first before I smoked weed. So that was technically my gateway drug. But any drug that you do first is a gateway drug. If you do it at an early age, it's a gateway drug. If you smoke crack first, that's a gateway drug.
Right. I agree, because it's one of those things where people are like, oh, well, at least I don't smoke crack anymore, but I just smoke weed. It's just like, well, you're still using something. Like, you're not sober, in my opinion. You know what I mean? That's not being sober, So
Yeah, because like you said, I think the lack of ability to deal with emotions and to have those feelings that, they suck. It sucks to feel pain and it sucks to be sad. But if you're constantly masking it with drinking or smoking or, hard drugs or whatever it is, then you're never going to learn that. And like you said, I think unfortunately, a lot of young people use that so much that it does become the only solution. They don't learn those life lessons of, hey, this is how I deal with a heartbreak, or hey, this is how I deal with, someone passing away close to me, a friend, family, whatever. And so they never understand that they can do it without all that, it's not easy, and you do have to have that mindset, or like you said, if something that you believe in, or a purpose, or a higher power, or whatever it is, you have to have that, but it's not impossible whatsoever to deal with life without substances, you know? And I think that's something a lot of people hopefully will realize with this podcast too, and with your book, that it's possible for anyone. Like you said, even like you want them to be able to do something even in a quicker amount of time, like don't use you necessarily as an example, but as motivation to do even better and bigger.
Yes.
So I love that.
Yeah.
It's amazing that you're doing that, man. And kind of just to jump off the whole thing about, like, especially now, I think this day and age, it's like the music that's out there now is like a lot of it does talk about, taking drugs, and that's like cool, quote unquote, like you said. And it's just like, that's why you see a lot of even artists and overdosing and passing away from all this shit because they think it's cool. And then that's why these kids grow up and they think, oh, I need to take Xan. I need to take this. And it's just like, there's still a lot of education that needs to be put out there because that's just not cool, man. You know what I mean? And I love that you're doing that, bro. And like some people need that reference point that you can relate to. And that's what we did this past summer. We did something obviously not as similar as you going to talk about drugs, but to share our life experiences. So hopefully, if we were able to change one person's life and say, hey, do you remember those speakers that came in and, that talked to us about the adversities that came over in their life? And I think that's really cool that you're doing that and giving that opportunity for some kids to be like, damn, maybe they talk to you after the show or maybe they tell someone else, so that's really cool, man.
Yeah. So what we're doing with Recovered on Purpose, I'm going to have Facebook groups for the kids so that we can actually keep in contact with them.
Awesome.
And then I have a whole curriculum, right? So on November 6th, which is my 2-year mark again, I'm actually going into my first high school with this entire curriculum. I'm going into Delta High School. It's in George Washington High School, and I'm going in there with 2 other addicts, which is the whole. And here's why I share this: is if anybody can do this, go do it. This is not an idea that I want to keep. This is an idea I want to spread. So, and the point is that we need to raise up as many recovered addicts as possible to get into the schools and get into the younger people and educate them what actually happens, because we're losing them day by day by day. Every year that a school goes without one of us going in there, that's a whole class body of kids that don't have the knowledge to go into life about this. They don't have the knowledge. We are losing. Did you know that the life expectancy in America has gone down 6 months because of drug overdoses?
I haven't heard that. Yeah, with the opioid crisis and everything like that.
That's crazy. I did not know that either.
And it's I think it's obviously like they said, like the first time ever in history that like our life expectancy is going down.
Yeah.
And it's here in America, which is even more crazy, like where we should have the resources, we should have the ability to educate our youth on important issues. And I'm not saying like things they learn in school aren't important, but we've like talked about this before too, where unfortunately a lot of times, like when I went to school, I know I didn't learn a lot of life lessons. It was more, like algebra and stuff like that,
right,
as opposed to this is how you pay your bills. This is how you live your life,
right.
And I think a lot of schools are starting to change and kind of go more that route of financial responsibilities and kind of teaching them like trades and stuff like, hey, like you can start a business. You don't have to just do this. And I think that's wonderful. And I think being able to have also, like you said, your business with having addicts actually go, that kids can say, hey, me too. Hey, I can relate to that, is so powerful. Because like you said, I know there were times when you were in school and like teachers would come in and like say, do this, don't do that. But you're like, you're not me. Like, you don't know my life. Especially when they're like older, you always think like you were never young. They've been there. But yeah, in your head, you're just like, why is this old person telling me something?
Well, what do you know?
Right. Because I think for us, when we helped out at Third Way Center over the summer, well, it was over last semester with those students, we related a lot to them and they loved that. They respected that because to them, they're like, hey, look at these younger people that, are from Denver, kind of share a similar background or culture. They understand me as opposed to like my teacher that doesn't know anything, kind of thing. So I think that's super powerful that you're doing that. And with the Recovered on Purpose, how many addicts do you have that work for the company now or that are actually going to go with you? Do you have like a set number? Or you kind of just like as you go start meeting people and kind of introducing them to the concept and taking them along with you to the schools?
So this is actually the first public share about the company. I've been working diligently behind the scenes, building this idea, and I'm not going to have people that work for the company. That's not the point of it. I don't want to have people under me. I don't want to be paying people, none of that. I want to train them if they can use my knowledge, right? If you can do it, if you can get into the schools, if you can formulate the speech, if you can do it, go do it. There's over 100,000 public schools in America. We need a lot of people to get in on this, a lot of them. And if there is a way that I can cut back on the amount of time it takes you to get from the point that you're at to the point where you are publishing books, where you are formulating speeches, where you are talking to schools and you're getting into them and really pushing this message of that. And the message is not what I have. It's the message that you have. It's the message of hope. It's the message of what happens down this path. We have to get into the kids. That's the only way. There is no way we're going to end addiction by helping addicts. If you ask anybody in the world, how does an addict quit? Whether they were an addict or whether they weren't, you are going to get any one of 100 different answers about how an addict quits. Mm-hmm. So why is it that less than 7% of us are getting over a year? Why is it that less than 7% of us are getting over a year away from drugs and alcohol? And the reason is because it's up to the individual addict. The only way we're going to end addiction is by ending it at the source. And the source is where you start using drugs. We have to get into the schools. We have to do it. We have to.
I totally agree. I think that's wonderful. And I honestly think that is a huge important message for everyone. And I think it is where it could start, for sure. Because like you said, I think the concept of obviously rehabs and everything like that has obviously been always geared towards adults, always geared towards, they've been using for 5 years, 10 years, where it's kind of they're already there. But why not stop it, like you said in the beginning, or at least give them that idea in their head that this is where it could lead, but this is where you can go instead. And I think that's super powerful. I love it.
Yeah, I agree. What are the plans for 2020 and the future?
Man, I'm solely focused on entrepreneurship. I'm fully focused on raising people up to live on purpose. I'm fully focused on getting a message out that's going to impact as many people as possible. What 2020 looks like is, from now until the end of the year, I'm going to get this curriculum down pat. Right, I'm gonna make the courses. I'm going to get everything together for people that want to come in to actually have the content for them to be able to go and do it themselves. Right, 2020, I'm gonna do as many schools and all of that as possible. There's a lot of other things that I need to do to spread the message to get more addicts to do it. The thing is I can't go into a whole bunch of schools myself because that's taking away from the big picture. The big picture is I need to look for addicts that are willing to go do this. Mm-hmm. I need to be the one that trains other people to train other people to train other people to train other people so that we can raise up an army. I can only talk to how many? If I was to speak to a school every single day. 365, or even if I spoke to 2 a day or 3 a day, right. The most I can possibly do is less than 1,000. So that's 100 years of speaking multiple times every right. single day. So I will speak in as many schools as possible, but 2020 looks like me raising an army to go do it themselves. Mm-hmm. The message needs to get out, and I can't do it alone. I can't.
Right.
That's awesome.
So for anyone that's listening now, to this podcast and they wanted to reach out to you. Maybe mm-hmm. they're a recovering addict too and they're like, hey, this is amazing. I want to do this. I want to know what do I need to do? What do they need to do to get in contact with you? What's the best way to reach out to you and learn more about Recovered on Purpose?
So right now, all right, I'll give it. You can email me at
he says, okay, fuck it, I'll get it.
recoveredonpurpose@gmail.com. If you are somebody that actually wants to jump in on this and get in and take it full on and get into schools, learn your message, get your message together, pinpoint the parts of your story that are going to be most impactful to kids. If you want to take this head on, you can email me at recoveredonpurpose@gmail.com.
Awesome. And I think we're open to, if people wanted to reach out to us, indirectly, then obviously, we're comfortable with that too. If anyone out there is kind of hesitant or more comfortable, maybe reaching out to myself or Ernest and wanting to learn more, and then we can put you in contact with Adam, if that's okay also.
Yeah.
Because I think it's an amazing opportunity. I think has so much potential to go so far and reach so many people. And I think that's what's important. Mm-hmm. And so back to the book, I know the whole message is to put emphasis on Recovered on Purpose. But with your book that's coming out, will you give us just more information on the release date, how they can get that as well, and and just kind of a little bit more on the book.
Yeah, so right before I got here, it actually went up for pre-order on Amazon. And I'm actually going to go ahead and comment that right now, real quick. And so it will be in the comments for you to pre-order it. It's only 99 cents. So you'll be able to get it on Kindle. And it's going to release again on November 6th, which again is my 2-year clean and sober mark. And then a week later, the print version will come out. And I'm going to buy a whole ton of those. And anybody that wants to reach out to me if they want a copy like directly from me, I would love to bring them a print copy or meet up with them, get a print copy to them. My request is that I want this message to get out there. When you get the book, get it in mind that you are helping the message get out. You're not just buying a book to buy my book. You're not just getting it to read, even though I believe it's a good read. And I'm getting good feedback from my launch team, and it's exciting. It's entertaining and all that. But the point of it is the more people that see this book, the more people we're going to be able to impact with creating a message for themselves. The more people that see that somebody did this, the more people are going to get inspired to do it themselves. And that's the whole point of this. The whole point of this entire message is to empower others to do it themselves. That's it.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's a very good book, guys. We got the chance to check it out, and it's really deep stuff. So not even if it's just for yourself, it's just so you have that, you know what I mean? You could be able to tell someone maybe going through a dark time themselves, and you could be able to pass that along. And it's a really good, like, I'm not even kidding, from the second that we started reading it, it was just like really pulls you in, and it's really deep. So you guys got to check it out for sure. So
yeah, and we'll of course, like always, leave all the links down below on our YouTube. We'll have links for the book, links for Adam, anything that we think is necessary to either get in contact with him or Recovered on Purpose or the book itself. We'll have that all down below on our YouTube channel, and then we'll obviously be pushing it via social media on our Facebook, on our Instagram, and everything like that. So like, in closing, like, what would you say, and you kind of already touched on this, but just kind of to have like a base for it, what would you say to anyone listening now that's either been addicted or is currently struggling with addiction, like you said, to drugs or alcohol or whatever it is? What would you say to them right now? Like, what advice, tips, words of encouragement, whatever you feel that you want to say to them that are listening right now?
Yeah. So wherever you're at, you're going to look back 6 months from now and not recognize yourself if you take the actions. The disciplines that you do today will pay off in the future. And the thing is, we get so caught up in wanting everything right now. And I was caught up in wanting everything right now. I can tell you it is so worth it. It is so worth it to do what you know you need to do, and do it for a consistent amount of time. Try it out for a year. Whatever that thing is, whatever that thing that's eating you inside that you want to do. I don't care if you're an addict. I don't care if you're a recovered addict. I don't care if you haven't ever dealt with this. Whatever that is inside of you that you want to do, just start today. Start right now. Get up earlier and go to the gym. Start eating healthier. Start writing your journal. Start writing your book. Start speaking to the people that you want to speak to inspire. Start that business. Ask that girl out on that date. What is stopping you except for your mind? Your mind, and the whole positivity mindset revolution is bullcrap. It's crap. You don't need to change your mindset. You need to change your actions. You can't change your mindset enough to change your actions. You change your actions and your mindset will follow. Do what you know you need to do over and over and over, and you will notice soon, very soon, how much you have changed. How much you have changed.
Nice.
Awesome.
I love it.
Deep.
Yeah, that's awesome. We're always telling people to, like, start now. whatever, like you said, whatever it is, the hardest part is starting. And it's always that fear, that fear of, I don't know if I could do it, that fear of, I can't do it, or
the time's not
you
right.
gotta
The time's never going to be right.
I'm too old, I'm too young, I'm too this, I'm too that. You got to just do it. Like you said, I love that message. It's perfect for sure.
It's great. Alrighty. So we're going to end it with this. We'd like to do this thing with all of our guests with the creative minds. So we like to call it first things first. So how this goes, we give you a one-word word or phrase. You got to tell us the first thing that comes to your mind.
How long am I allowed to go?
Oh, yeah.
I guess in your case, we'll make an exception. No,
No,
however
right.
long you want. Yeah,
Right.
Whatever
It'll
you
just
need.
be just give us a one-word thing. The first thing that comes to your mind, and then the only thing is you can't repeat yourself.
Okay.
Good.
Alrighty. Addiction.
Recovery.
Life.
Abundance.
Let's see. What did I have written down?
Adam.
Adam. Yeah, that's a good one.
Adam Gunton.
Courageous.
Nice. I agree. Adversity.
Conquer.
Alrighty, and let's end with life.
I already said life.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm sorry.
I'll do my favorite, which is empowerment, which you did mention, which I love that word. So empowerment or empower.
Source.
Nice.
Yay.
I love it. Love it, love it, love it. So thank you so much, Adam.
Thank
I
you
think
so much.
you're super empowering to even me, myself. And I've been fortunate enough to not experience addiction myself. But like we both have talked about, I've had family members that did. So it's super empowering to me to hear that message. And like I said, you honestly opened my eyes to a lot of things that I didn't know about addiction and also about recovery, more importantly, like the whole concept, like I said, of, finding that purpose, and that a lot of addicts kind of hang on to that. Well, I'm recovered and that's it.
Yep.
You need more in life. You need a purpose. You need goals. And everyone, I agree with you, is capable of doing anything. I mean, we're put on this earth, and I agree with the purpose. And, you have your life to figure it out, but at the same time, life is so short. It's like, why not start today? Like you said, as soon as you're done listening to this podcast, like start living the life that you deserve.
Do it.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on here and just sharing your story and what you're trying to accomplish. And it's amazing, man. Like it is very empowering, and it's awesome to hear, even just from your side, even how it touches me in my own, you're dealing with things with my mom and stuff like that. So appreciate that, man. It means a lot to me. So
Yeah,
thank
it means
you.
a lot to be here. Thanks a lot for having me, guys.
Thank you. So like we said, we'll leave all the links below on our YouTube. This will be on Spotify and iTunes. And yeah, like hopefully you can grab that book. It's an amazing book. I've already read it. It's not a long read if you're a fast reader, especially, and if you love reading. And then Recovered on Purpose. I mean, let's see where that's at in 2020. I think it's gonna go far, and I'm excited to see and hear about it in the schools and hopefully elsewhere. So congratulations on your business and on your recovery, and let's keep going. Let's keep pushing this inspiration.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Adam. Thanks,
So,
guys.
yep. Thank you guys for listening. Make sure to stay hardcore strong, and remember, it's a beautiful day to be alive. Thank you.
Love you guys. Bye.
Peace.